Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the uh, AEW or Impact review for the 30th of September 2021. Impact continues to be a third rate show with some talent on it. And I say third rate only because honestly, there's a drastic drop off in the talent levels between these networks. I even think MLW has pound for pound a better roster than Impact at this point. There's talk that many people are going to be coming to Impact from the WWE WWF paradigm, and who knows? Um, Rumors of Bray Wyatt, rumors of Braun Strowman, rumors of other people. Who knows if that ends up being true? There are some good things here. Anyway, the BTI pre-show ends up being Matt Cardona with Chelsea Green defeating Ranjit Singh with Rohit Raju on the program. Again, that kind of just falls flat, and Cardona being on something that can't even make television tells you where that company thinks of him. Um, so we open to a video package of the recap of Josh Alexander challenging Christian for the title match Bound for Glory. Last week, Alexander versus Ace Austin main event, which leads to a return of Christopher Daniels to Impact after 7 years. Trey Miguel defeats Alex Zane and Laredo Kid for the X Division Championship match qualifier. X Division titles vacated by Josh Alexander. Dean Moore booked a tournament to crown the new champion. Bound for Glory each week will feature a three-way qualifier match to set up participants in at Bound for Glory. Alex Zane is making his Impact debut in the contest. And of course, he doesn't win, so what does the debut really mean? Don't debut people in title matches, debut them in ways you can get them over, even for a week or two. Anyway, first couple of minutes, see all three men pair up in different combinations, fast paced sequences, counters, reversals. Miguel drops Kid with a Rana from the apron to the floor, follows by a moonsault by Zane. Spots, back in the ring. They do some three-person spots. Zane's ability gets highlighted here, but they're trading momentum between all three men. Kid hits a springboard Rana onto Miguel and springboard cutter, and there's a near fall. Finish sees Zane take out Kid, but Miguel runs in, removes Zane from the ring, and hits the Meteor to win and advance to Bound for Glory. Yeah, I'm not necessarily against the winner being Miguel, but again, he's just there more because he's been there for a while, not because he's necessarily a huge deal. During the match, footage of Matthew Reinwald watching and mentions that he seems interested in the actions of Laredo Kid. Reinwald cuts a promo on Laredo Kid, saying he and Kid were similar because they both were misunderstood by the world, and he challenged Kid to a match. Why wouldn't you support the misunderstood person instead of challenging them? Footage of Callahan being checked in or checked on by doctors after Morrissey and Moose break his ankle. Story is to write off Callahan for a while. Eddie Edwards cuts a promo about knowing that he and Callahan were getting into when they went to war with Moose and Morrissey. He takes the latter, and Morrissey has always been taken care of, but Impact, he faces reality. Not a fan of this. The Influencers, Tennille Dashwood and Madison Rayne, with Caleb with a K, defeats Jordan Grace and Rachel Ellering in a Knockouts Tag Team Championship #1 Contenders match. Why do we need a #1 Contenders match when we're not really focusing on the champions all that much? Grace and Ellering have a history. Match starts with Ellering and Dashwood's, and Dashwood is dominant early, or Ellering is dominant early in the exchange. Influence is able to take control, and Caleb trips Ellering, causing her and Grace to change their focus, and then the influence control doesn't last all that long. Ellering is able to overpower Dashwood, and now gets after her. Ellering comes back in with a TKO on Dashwood, and then a spinebuster on Rain. They follow up with some double team moves before setting up Vader Bomb from Grace on Rain. Caleb says there's no place for range. Foot on the rope, and then there's a near fall finish. Sees Grace and Ellering once again to get distracted by Caleb, allowing for the Influence to get their new signature move and a win over Ellering. It will be the Influence versus Decay for the tag team titles at the next pay-per-view. Drea Miller interviews Christopher Daniels about returning to Impact. Daniels says that he didn't need to knock on the forbidden door of the house he built. Josh Alexander and Christian Cage walk up and thank Daniels for his help last week, but Cage and Alexander quickly get on each other's nerves. We get another skit with Brian Myers training the Learning Tree with VSK and making everyone jealous. I'm not necessarily a fan of this. I think it's a backward step. Then we go to the Good Brothers cutting a promo from their vacation house talking about how beating people up makes them happy. They promoted Impact's YouTube subscription service, talking trash about some of the tag teams on Impact, and realized they need opponents for Bound for Glory. So Finn Juice versus Bullet Club in a number one contenders match apparently is a thing. Deanna Purrazzo video arrives at Mickie James's ranch. Purrazzo finds out James and attacks her in the barn. They brawl for some minutes, and Purrazzo tries to use a rake to attack James. Ends up spraying water in Purrazzo's face, which worked for some reason, but after Purrazzo recovers and she takes over on James, Finn Juice cuts promo about being attacked by the Bullet Club last week and always being outnumbered. Sabin joins them and agreed to take on the Bullet Club next week, and Robinson's highlighted here pretty well. Then we go to Christopher Daniels defeating Madman Fulton with Ace Austin. Daniels returns last week to confront Austin and Fulton, and during the attack on Alexander and Cage. This is his first Impact match in just about 7 years. Fulton has power advantage, dominates Daniels, and he gets a hold of him. Daniels then relies on speed and does the hit and jive. Nails offense on Fulton. After running wild for a bit, Fulton is able to cut off Daniels with a big slam and then goes for the second rope move. He tries to choke and hurt Daniels, mostly around the head. Daniels then makes a comeback, but cuts him off, and Austin there's interference. Josh Alexander runs down for the save. The save is relatively ineffective, at least for a little while. Then we see continuation of Daniels makes a comeback, gets cut off. Austin's interference. Josh Alexander runs down for the save. Brawls with Austin to the back. Fulton kicks out of Angel's Wings, but loses the fall to the best moonsault ever. Not necessarily sure that Fulton losing here is the best thing for business, but at the same time, bringing back Daniels, who is an Impact legend, makes reasonable sense that he would pick up a win. Over at Swinger's Palace, Swinger prepares himself to meet with Scott D'Amore about canceling the Vegas tapings. D'Amore obviously didn't take him seriously and shut down Swinger's Palace permanently. Madman Fulton and Ace Austin goes to D'Amore and demanded that he do something about all the men getting involved in matches. D'Amore booked Austin and Fulton versus Alexander and Cage for next week. Not exactly the best thing there. Then we go to Violent by Design coming down to the ring for Rhino's answer after Eric Young gives him an ultimatum on whether he is with or against Violent by Design. Rhino walks out and fans chant for Gore. Rhino surrounded by Doring, Diener, and Eric Young. Heath makes his long-awaited return from the hernia injury from several months ago, goes straight for the brawl with Diener and Doring. Heath then clears the ring, but Rhino never joins in. He neither attacked Violent by Design nor sided with them. Commercial for the new title Impact is introducing the Digital Media Champion. There will be a tournament to crown the champion Bound for Glory. First matches are Ziggy Dice versus John Skyler and Hernandez versus Crazy Steve. Seems like an underneath title. Also next week, Black Taurus versus McCain versus P.D. Williams in another X Division qualifier. Finjuice and Saban versus Bullet Club and Austin, and Fulton versus Cage and Alexander. At least a little bit better here. Main event of the program, Eddie Edwards defeats Morrissey in a street fight. These two have been feuding for quite a while. Even with weapons in hand, Edwards takes an early advantage, takes down by Morrissey, who breaks a wet sign on Edwards' head, but makes a comeback. Tope Suicida, and then there's a belt shot to bring Morrissey down. Brawl continues. Morrissey takes him around the guardrail and the steel steps, including a choke slam onto the steps. Ouch. Back in the ring, table gets filled. Table chairs, garbage cans, and other weapons are introduced. Morrissey's in control, but Edwards makes a comeback, and Morrissey uses some weapons of his own. Hits a blue thunderbomb on the garbage can. Edwards brings out barbed wire, wrapped chair. Fails to use it on Morrissey and instead takes a couple of shots himself with it. Morrissey then tries to slam Edwards into a bed of chairs, but Alicia runs down, makes the save, attacks Morrissey with a kendo stick, allowing Edwards to slip out of the powerbomb. Morrissey then lands on the chairs, but only gets a count of one before the kick out. Edwards then attacks Morrissey with kendo sticks, followed by a Boston Knee Party into the barbed wire chair, and Edwards gets the pin. After the match, Moose attacks both Edwards and Alicia, spearing Edwards through the table into the ring. Alicia checks on Edwards when Moose and Morrissey grab her and make her watch as Moose attacks Edwards' neck with a bunch of chair shots. Chair wrapped around Edwards ends up all bent up, and decent enough post-match angle to get us to Moose and Edwards. We'll be back with more right after this.